Well, here I am in my happy place. It's the middle of August and it's blueberry picking season. Gorgeous night out, about 60 degrees, and 6:30 p.m. And Sammy's helping lead the way to find the blueberries, along with a few hundred other people that have hopefully left. So I keep hearing the words in my head, do things right, Esther. Do them thoroughly. Do things right and do them thoroughly. That was the theme for last week from my patient. We'll call her Stella. I have to change the names. And oh my goodness, did she ever have a week. Over the course of 7 days, Stella experienced 3 of the 4 levels of hospice care that one can go through. So this is what I have so far. Maybe half a gallon. So Stella came on to service a couple of months ago with lung cancer and COPD. And my routine was to see her 3 times a week. Stella was anxious by nature, and that had been a long part of her history, along with some OCD tendencies. So there was a lot of teaching about repetition and what we were doing with giving her meds to help her be comfortable with morphine and lorazepam. And of course she was on oxygen at 4 liters continuously to keep her comfortable. And then finally, her last week of life, on a Saturday, she started with symptoms of UTI and frequency for urination. And it was pretty harsh. Like every 10 minutes she was having to get up to go to the bathroom. And so the on-call nurse saw her. She went out, and the patient had requested to be on antibiotics. So the provider wrote for that, and she got started on it that weekend. So by the time I saw her on Monday, 2 days later, her symptoms were settling a little bit, but not fully, not completely. And then that night, her oxygen levels dropped to the 80s. She took a good fall. And when I saw her the next morning, that's when it was very obvious this was more than a UTI. She was truly starting with terminal agitation. She was so restless that every 5 to 10 seconds she was trying to get out of the bed to go to the bathroom. And the medications that the caregiver were giving, like every 15 minutes, morphine and lorazepam, was not working. So we put a call into the doctor, and we said this would be a great time to do a continuous care session to get her symptoms under better control. So what that means for hospice is we do them in 8-hour increments, and it's with a nurse for the most part, and also some help from the CNA. So immediately I put in a Foley catheter and also a Macy catheter so I could dose her frequently with the meds. So things got better after an hour or 2, but then she would flare up again. Finally, towards the end of the 8-hour session, she was in a good quiet rest. And so we were thinking, well, we're getting through the hard part here, and now it'll just be another day or 2. The next morning, I come back, and she heard the phone ring. So she wakes up out of her deep sleep, and it starts all over again. So we started dosing every 15 minutes per doctor's order. And that's when she was telling me the words, do things right, do them thoroughly. I reassured her I'm doing everything the doctor has ordered, and we just weren't getting anywhere. So I called the doctor and requested that we get her into the hospital for GIP, which stands for general inpatient. This is the highest level of care that hospice provides, and it means it's going to be IV medications and a variety of them with frequent dosing to help get her under control. So we got Stella into the hospital about 11 o'clock that day, and she got started on scheduled IV morphine, scheduled IV Ativan, and for the first day that held her. And then her second day in the hospital, thinking she would drift off into a quiet sleep, everything started all over again. And that's when they had to start giving phenobarbital every 4 hours, fairly routinely, along with the other meds. So it was interesting to see Stella's journey. The saying that people die in the manner of how they live their lives is absolutely 1,000% true. She had a story to say there at the end, and she was a perfectionist, and she had a hard time letting go, and that's okay. But there's medications that we can do at that highest level of care that sometimes are needed for patients to have a peaceful passing. And her husband got to be with her the last few days, which was wonderful. They made it to a big milestone anniversary, and I'm sure that was really important to her. And so she wound up being in the hospital for 4 days on GIP level of care before she passed. So Stella went through routine level of care in the home, a continuous care session, and GIP, and she made her journey at the very end. So Stella, I am picking these berries in honor of you, and I'm being very thorough and doing it right. Not stepping on the bushes like some of these other people have done. And taking my time to do a thorough job. The blueberries are ready up at Archangel. There was at least 100 other people up here earlier, but they are to be found. You just have to be willing to trek hard. All is well, except Sammy got stung by something and his eye is hurting. Let me see, baby.